There we go. Welcome to Rock and Recovery. I'm your host, Jay. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Heather Willis, and she's here to share her story. So I'll just let Heather get right to it. Thank you for being on the show, Heather. And, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day just to come on the show.
Thank you. So I have been, I've been in recovery for 11 years, which is, I just celebrated that in September. But how I got into actively, using opiates, and I also was an alcoholic. I have a lot of trauma as a child. My biggest abuser is my mom, and she would, not just physically. It wasn't just physical. It was a lot of like mental abuse, and so I grew up. Thinking that was what life was, and like with all the hate and all the physical from her, I thought that was normal. And when my parents divorced when I was 9 years old, and I lived with her for a while, and then she became really abusive to me and tried to choke me, and I moved in with my dad, who he wasn't physically abusive, but he ran his home, like he ran his squadron, because he was in the Navy. So it was very strict. And I was 16 years old, and I went to my first party, which I lied about. And I was drinking, and I got date raped. And I didn't say nothing to nobody because I thought it was my fault. I thought it was because I was dressing kind of provocative, and I thought I created this. And shortly after that, because I didn't know how to deal with everything, I found out that I was pregnant. And being 16, not knowing what to do, I went to the guy that had that raped me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And he was like, you need to figure it out. I ran to my mom because I was afraid to tell my dad. And my mom's like, well, we'll go ahead and we'll take care of it. She was the first one to give me drugs. And that's how it all started. My mom used to abuse opiates, and I started with Vicodin, and it took away what I was feeling. I didn't want to feel anything, and it started just, taking a few pills here and there, to where I was. She would come home and bring me like joints. She'd bring me alcohol. And I thought, I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like my parents doing this, not realizing that none of this was normal. I ended up having a miscarriage, which is for the best, because I know that I couldn't raise a child at 16. She said it was all because I was using drugs. That's why I had a miscarriage, and just really weird things that she would say to me. I went to school one day. I came home, and the guy that had raped me was sitting at my kitchen table. And my mom just invited him in like it was nothing. And I looked at her and I said, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, he's having dinner with us. I said, well, I'm not staying here. And I left. Like I ran away from home. I went to my aunt's house where I stayed until he left. And she forced me to come back, because she said if I didn't come back, she was going to call the police on me for a runaway. So I came back home, and I had told her, I said, I just want to die. I'm like, I don't want to live here. I don't want to live no more. Like, you're inviting the person that hurt me. And she's like, then you're going to kill yourself in front of me. And this is the first attempt that I tried to commit suicide. She had a thing of bleach, and she's like, you're going to drink this whole thing of bleach in front of me. And I looked at her and I said, no, I'm not. I said, I just don't want to feel what I'm feeling no more. And she goes, nope, you are going to sit here and drink this whole thing of bleach. I sat there in front of her and I drank the bleach. She goes ahead and calls, 911, says that I tried to commit suicide. I get admitted into a psychiatric hospital. I don't ever tell them about what she does to me. I just tell them, like, I've been raped. Before that, my dad had remarried and I was molested by my stepbrother. So I had both of those, and I was telling them like what was going on. And I was in a residential home for a year and a half. I get out, I go back to my, at that time I was sober, because I couldn't do anything in there. I go back to my mom's. The first thing that she did was, here's pills and here's more of them. And I was like, well, I know what it feels like to be high, and I like that feeling. And that's all it took. It was like going right back to it. And the only time she was nice to me is when we were both actively using together. And all I really wanted was a mom in my life, even though it was a messed up situation. She would just, all the time just give me whatever I wanted. I turned 18 and I turned 18 in October, and she came into my room and she was like, you have 10 business days to move out of the house. And mind you, I'm in high school. I'm like, well, how am I going to finish school? That's not my problem. You need to figure it out. And so I ended up moving in with my aunt and uncle, where I ended up graduating. At that time, I wasn't drinking, and I wasn't using any type of pills. I was still smoking, weed without my aunt and uncle knowing. And that's when I met my husband. I met him on a chat site, and he kind of rescued me from everything I was going through. And he's much older than me, and he was like, wanted like this relationship, and I was only 18, and I'm like, no, I'm not ready for this. I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to go to college and all this other stuff. I had plans that I wanted to do. We always stayed in contact with each other, and I did end up going to school in New York. I ended up with the wrong people. I had a fake ID. I would get into the clubs all the time. I got alcohol poisoning where I was really sick. And the school I was at ended up calling my dad. I went back home because I got kicked out of school. So then my dad realizes that I have this problem and tried everything he could to try to fix what was going on. He's like, why are you doing all this? Like, what's creating this? And at that point, I was almost 20, and I was like, I have been raped. I've been molested by my stepbrother. I don't know what to do. And so at that point, he was like, we're going to get you the help that you need, and we're going to get you to stop, doing drinking and doing these drugs, and let's help you. I would lie to him, telling him I was going to therapy, and I wouldn't attend because I didn't think I had a problem, and I didn't know how to fix it. And I was so scared to fix what was going on that I ended up meeting my oldest son's father when I was 20, and I got pregnant. And that was like the scariest part of my life because I was actively using and drinking. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was almost 3.5 months along. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did I do to him? Like, I could have hurt him. And I remember sitting there telling my dad, I said, I can't have him. I'm going to give him up for an adoption. I'm not ready to be a parent, and I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to hurt him. And my dad's like, it's okay, Heather. I will be here. I will help you support. I will help you with whatever we can. You have nothing. You're not anything like your mom. You have more of me and you. We'll get through this. So I ended up, having my son. And as soon as I had him, a month later, I turned 21. And that's where everything just I went from barely, like, I didn't do anything when I was pregnant, but As soon as I turned 21, I was at the bars every weekend. I didn't have my son. I would have him with a family member. And then it just turned into, I knew people that had different types of pills, and I just continued to do those. I got mixed up with the wrong people. And the only reason why I never got myself into trouble is because of my family. A lot of my family members are cops. And so they would just take me, like, no, we're not going to take you to jail. They pretty much coddled me.
Just take you back home or whatever else.
Right. Which is not right either. I should have gotten myself into trouble many times. When my husband and I, started talking again, and realized that we had all these feelings, because I wasn't at that point, wasn't with my son's father no more. We had gotten together, but he had gotten himself hurt pretty badly. So he was taking Percocets, and he would get a huge script of them. And a lot of the times he wouldn't take a lot of them. So I was like, oh, perfect. He won't know that anything is missing. And then it went from me taking Vicodin to Percocets, and then to Oxys. And it was just, and I just couldn't stop. Like, I would be physically sick if I didn't take them. I just remember like getting up, and that was the first thing I needed to do. I couldn't, even to go to work, I had to be intoxicated. And to me, that was normal to me. It really messed up our marriage, because when I was high, I was mean. Like, I was lying to him. I wasn't honest about anything. So here we are trying to have, a family, and I'm doing all these things behind his back. So we separated back, in 2010. And then so in the meantime, I'm still just doing crazy things, all these different drugs. And my dad gets sick in 2012. He had kidney cancer, and he's my best friend. I found out in April 2012 that he had stage 4 kidney cancer, and that he had 5 to 8 years to live. And at this point, I was pregnant with my second child. And I said, well, we'll make the best out of it. We have 5 to 8 years. Let's do all the things that we wanted to do. I lost my dad in 8 months.
Wow.
And I took care of him because I was a nurse, and I've been a nurse most of my life. And to see like what cancer does to somebody, like it's horrible. And so after, he passed away, I went back into, taking pills, because I wasn't taking pills after I had my daughter. I was breastfeeding. I stopped. I'm like, nope, I'll start bottle feeding. And I just went downhill. And I was heading down a path that was the scariest part of my life. And so he passed away in November. And I ended up just doing all these crazy things. And back in 2000, so from like 2012 to 2014, I'm just still taking whatever. There's many times I've gone to the hospital to have my stomach pumped. I remember one time this is in Rockland, where my family's from. I went to a party, and I don't even know what I took. I just took whatever. And I passed out on the sidewalk. They thought I was no longer here. I got rushed to the hospital, where, of course, they're pumping my stomach. And I get admitted again to the psychiatric hospital, and they're like, you need to go to rehab. And I said, I don't have a problem. And not realizing, I had a major problem. And I refused to go to rehab. So they held me in the psychiatric hospital for, it was like a period of 14 days. And then finally let me go. After that, I went, it's almost like once you kind of start, like you just don't stop. And I took more and more of everything. I had told both of my children's father, I said, I'm going down a path, and I don't want my kids to see this, and I don't know what to do. I made the decision at that point to give them to them. and I made a lie about who I was. I met this guy that he was strictly doing the same thing I was doing, and I left for a period of time. I was not in my children's lives for about 8 months before I decided to get sober. And all it was just drinking and doing drugs. And at the end of it, my oldest son's father, he was my dealer, and he had I remember going to his house, and I'm like, what is that in the bathroom? And there were like these little envelopes, and I had no clue what they were. And he was like, oh, you want to try it? And I said, well, what is it first? And so he tells me it's heroin. And I said, well, I'm not ever putting a needle in my body. He's like, no, but you can snort it. I was like, well, okay, I'll try it. That's all it took. And then that became my drug of choice. And once I started that, I couldn't stop. And that's all I remember just dreaming about it. Like I wake up and that's what I needed to have. I had to have it all the time. I lost my job. I had a really good job working at the veterans home. I lost everything because I couldn't stay sober. The guy that I was living with, and we were living literally in a camper and somebody's backyard, and him and I, it become a really toxic relationship because we're high and we're drunk and we're just mean to each other. I laughed and I said, well, I'm just going to go home to my kids, knowing that that's not where I needed to be either. And I was laying in bed with my oldest son, who at that time was 8 years old. And he looked at me, and I'm dope sick, sicker than a dog. And he's like, Mama, he's like, I just want my old mama back. And I realized at that point, I'm like, everybody knows, like, I have a problem. And I ended up putting myself into rehab the following day. And I just, back in September, I've celebrated 11 years being sober. I've had some crazy things in the 11 years that I'm surprised I haven't relapsed. But my children are my biggest drive. To keep me on the straight and narrow, and to realize that that's not the life that I want to live. And I don't want them to ever think that just because of the stuff I have gone through, that is the way to live life. I never want them to have to bury me because I'm not sober. Still to this day, my mom and I do not have a good relationship. She's still pretty, abusive to me. I have also, learned that, instead of masking my emotions, like with substance, is to deal with them head on, which has been really difficult. Because for years, I'm like, I don't know how to feel. So when I started to feel these emotions, I'm like, whoa, these are not, I don't like the feeling, and I don't know how to deal with the feeling of them.
Right.
So it's been different.
How hard was it to actually recover, and how did you recover?
So I ended up going to a rehab place in the state that I live in. I was there for a month, and then I moved back home with my mom and my stepfather. Because I didn't want to be around my children. Not that I didn't want to be, I didn't feel like it was healthy for me to be around my children until I could be sober. So I moved back home with my mom and stepdad, and then I did a program called an IOP program. And that was only supposed to be for 6 months, but I actually ended up doing it for 18 months because I have co-occurring disorders. So not only do I have my addiction, but I also have mental health disorders as well. And I didn't know at that time. So I was being treated for both. And they also put me on Suboxone to help me stay sober. I didn't like it because my thought was, I saw these people coming into class and they were high. And I was like, no, I want to get sober. I don't want to trade one thing for another. This is not what I'm trying to do. So within like 3.5 months, I weaned myself off of it. Haven't had to be on anything like that. I realized at that point in my life, my best friend was the hard candy. Like I constantly had to have something sweet, to take away my cravings. I still have a sponsor, and I actually live in the same area now. When I first got sober, and it's a place called the Barn. It's a network place, and it's not just for alcoholics, but it's also for AA. I'm not for AA, but for NA, and it's just a great community. And that place has saved my life. I remember on Christmas sitting there. They do 24-hour meetings on holidays. I literally stay there the whole time because I'm like, if I'm out, I'm so afraid I'm going to relapse and I don't want to. I literally sat there and listened to these people's stories and hoped. I'm like, man, one day I really hope I could be able to tell my story and be like, I have been sober for this period of time. I've been able to beat this, and I was only just a couple months sober at that point. And now, like, looking back, I'm like, I am one of those people. Like, I'm able to be like, I have been able to come above this and ahead of this. Currently I'm in my sophomore year, going to school to be a substance abuse therapist. My hope is to help people and to give them the hope that they can, work through what's going on and they can beat this and that. Addiction doesn't define who you are. We are people, and just because we've had things happen to us does not make us, I kind of
to us, not because of us.
Right. Like,
It's
I get frustrated
to you, not because of you.
Right. Because when you think about it, there's a lot of judgmental people, and they don't, and a lot of it's because they don't understand it. So it's easier just to judge somebody instead of being like, hey, like, what has happened? And instead of understanding, they are just so quick to be like, oh no, you're an addict. You're always going to be a druggie. You're always going to be an alcoholic. No. Right. I will always I will always be an addict and an alcoholic, but I'm not actively using. We do recover. I am, not a bad person. And I don't think that we should be judging people like that. And it's really hurtful because I feel bad for the people that don't have the support system. And I really didn't have a support system. So my goal in my life is to be that support system for other people so that they know that they're not alone in any of this, and that, to help others. Like, that's my biggest
So
thing.
when did you actually get sober off of all substances?
It was September 15th of 2014.
Wow. So it's going on 11 years. It just hit 11 years, in fact.
I just had 11 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. How hard was it to get off the Suboxone? I know, because I know other people that have been prescribed that or been on that as a medically assisted treatment. And sometimes they say the Suboxone was worse than the actual drug that they were on.
It made me really sick. They put me on a really high dosage at first. And I remember the first time I took it, I felt like I was drooling on myself. I can't even I was just not with it. And I remember going to my med provider. I said, I don't like this. I don't like how it makes me feel. I said, and I can't function. All I want to do, I kept nodding off. So I felt like I was still actively using. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So she had dropped me down quite a bit. And then I had told her, I said, I don't want to be like these people that are coming into group that are high off of this. This is not my goal. I said, my goal is to be sober. And I don't feel like me being on this for a long period of time, I'm going to stay sober. I'm going to get addicted to this. I have addictive personality. I said, whether it's to, drugs, alcohol, like, I spend money like crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just, have that type of personality, and I didn't want that. So she had helped me wean off of it, which was the best decision of my life.
So you were out of your kids' lives for the 8 months that you were in treatment. Is that what you said?
I didn't have my children in my life for about 18 months.
18 months.
18 months.
I commend you for getting those back, your kids back, and going through treatment. How much did you say it was a dual diagnosis program?
Yes, I was in a dual.
Dual diagnosis.
So I have bipolar. I'm bipolar. I have PTSD. I have anxiety, and I have depression. So, and now I have social anxiety. So now it's even worse. But
so how hard was it to work on the personality aspects instead of just the addiction aspect? How hard was it to get through that?
It was really hard because I didn't realize I had these problems. So at first before I got diagnosed with bipolar, they thought I had personality, like where I have like split personality, and I was like borderline personality disorder is what they called it. And I was like, well, what does that mean? I had no clue. And then when they realized, because I was very manic and I would have the ups and downs, and I've always had the ups and downs, when they realized at that point that I was bipolar, they had put me on medication. So when I started to get medication to lessen the severity of my mental health, I was able to focus on staying sober, because before it was like I was taking these drugs and alcohol not to feel all this other stuff. And so when now I was able to feel these things, it was scary, because I'm like, whoa, I have feelings. I don't like them. I don't know what to do with them. And if this doesn't feel right, all I know what to do is to mask it. So to learn how to use coping skills, which I didn't have any at that point, to learn how to utilize coping skills to be able to voice, hey, something isn't right. I need help, instead of just turning to substance, was huge for me. I learned.
Did you actually work on the personality aspects first before you actually addressed the addiction aspects?
We did together. I did it together. Yep.
So how helpful was it to now have I'm taking it you are on a medication for the other issues, but how much easier is it to deal with everyday life now that you're able to do it clearly?
I enjoy life. Before, I hated life, be honest with you. I love being able to wake up and be like, I am sober. I'm able to, and I have encountered some really rough things in the 11 years, but I've been able to do it sober. I haven't been like, man, I'm going to go drink, or I'm going to go ahead and go take this drug because I can't deal with this. There are times that I scream, there's times that I cry, but that's okay. I've been able to push through this and to work through this.
Does anything ever get too tough that you actually feel like or thought about going back to addiction?
I did. Oh my goodness. Probably like 6 years ago, I did. I became homeless. I got in a relationship that wasn't healthy, and he had lied to me and told me that, he had a place, and I get down there and my daughter was young, and he got evicted, and I didn't know what to do. And I'm in a place that I had no idea. And so the first thing I thought, well, I'm going to go to the police station and see if they can help me, because I didn't know what else to do. And they ended up calling the state on me. They called CPS on me, who then took my daughter from me. So I looked at them. I said, if you're going to take her, I have nothing else to live for. I'm going to go ahead and go back to drugs at this point. Well, they went ahead and blue papered me into the psychiatric hospital.
Wow.
So I got blue papered in, and thankfully, like, I am glad that all that happened, because I don't know where I'd be if that didn't happen, honestly. And with that, with me going there and getting on the proper meds and being able to get into therapy. The therapy has been the biggest thing for me. Finding somebody that I'm comfortable with, because it's hard to talk to, to open up about all the different things. I've done all sorts of different type of therapy, substance, I had a therapist that specialized in substance abuse. And then when I got on top of my addiction, I was like, well, I need to work on my trauma. But that's something that's really hard, because it's like I have buried that along, and I just keep putting stuff on top of it. Now that I am in EMDR, which is literally taking the Band-Aids off and opening up all these wounds that I'm some of the stuff I didn't even remember.
Right.
Has been really difficult. But at the same time, I'm able to process it, and I'm in I'm in the mindset in a healthy, space in my life that I know that I'm not going to go back to using drugs, and that the stuff that has happened to me has not been my fault. I've been carrying it on, thinking, man, it's maybe my attitude, maybe it was just. It has to be me. Well, no, it wasn't me. My mom chose to do these things for what reason? I don't know. Um,
How
I
hard
just
was it to in early on? You said you had to move back in with your mom. How hard was that, knowing what she put you through and all the trauma that you faced there before? How hard was that?
It was very hard. I a lot of times wasn't home between working because I went back to work. Between working and being in groups, I wasn't home much. And my stepfather, he after my dad passed, he like he was like my dad too. He wouldn't let my mom be mean to me. He would put my mom in her place. Um, and when she's sober, like when they were together for a long time, when she's sober, I get along great with my mom. But my mom's an alcoholic, and she is the meanest woman when she's drinking. So when she went back to drinking, it's when I was like, no, I'm getting my own place, and I had moved out from my parents' house. Had my own apartment for a little while. I ended up, getting myself a dog just to kind of keep me, you know, occupied and to keep going. And I stayed there for probably like 6 months before I moved back home to get my children. And then
So early on in recovery, how did you face the temptation? How did you face the triggers? Because I know your mom had to have been a big trigger.
my mom was a huge trigger.
So how do you face that daily?
I literally lived on the phone with my sponsor, no joke. And I would find ways to get out of my house just to go to be in groups so that I didn't have to deal with her. My mom would work overnight, so I would wait until she go. I would come back home when she was already gone. And then when she was home during the daytime, I would always make sure that I wasn't home. So I had very limited um, like contact with her. And when it come to weekends, I dreaded the weekends the most because I never knew like how the weekends never knew what was going to happen. But I always tried to make sure that I was in some type of going to some type of meeting. So I stayed in meetings like pretty much all the time.
So now, what do you do to maintain your sobriety? Do you still go to meetings? Do you still
Um,
talk to your sponsor?
I still talk to my sponsor. I haven't been over there she wants me to come over to do peer support over there. Which I'm with school right now, so it's kind of a little crazy for me to do. I do a lot of online meetings. I attend those. Um, and I also my therapist that I have, he's also in recovery. So a lot of the times I can sit there and just talk to him about different things. Like if something doesn't feel right, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm going to go back this way, but like I want to know like why would I for so long? Like I get sometimes upset with myself that I had used for so long, and I wasn't able to break it. Like you know, and
So, so what are some of the struggles that you face daily now that you want to talk about? Just the daily ones that you might or might not be tempted about.
um, a lot of it. My mental health is a big one. I This time of year is the hardest time of year for me, just because I lost my dad in November, and his birthday is in January, so I struggle this time of year. I do have a really good, like I have my therapist, I have a med manager, so I'm able to reach out anytime something isn't right. I have learned over the years to advocate for myself, something that I didn't know how to do. Um, I also know like if something isn't feeling like right at all, that I have like I still talk to my husband. I talk to Peter quite a bit. Um, Peter and I have been friends for years, and he's somebody that I could tell him anything, and he, you know, he doesn't judge me and he listens. And that's the same thing with Jim, my husband. Because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that's ever gone through this. And I'm like, man, what if I start coming out and saying, hey, this is what's really happened and this is what I feel like. But they listen to me and I feel really supported, something that I've never had. And that was my whole thing is that I just want to be able to do that for others and be a voice for other people.
How big is that, having support?
Support's huge. I think that everybody, needs that support. Whether, you give them, whether you're just listening to them or you're like giving them words of encouragement or whatever it may be, I think everybody deserves to have that. And for me, that has been one of the things that has gotten me through a lot of the tough times in my life.
Early on, you said you're essayed and everything. How hard was it to relive that, even now through EMDR, because you're having to relive that? And what's to stop you from going back to addiction now because of that trauma?
It's hard. It's hard. Like the whole, I have for years, after that had happened, I viewed myself as, how do I want to say it? I didn't,
Less than.
I would sleep with whoever I would say, because I have stuff taken away from me. So what the hell else is there to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Now that I have a daughter, I was like, no, like that's not, I don't want her to be like, well, what's going on? And now I view myself, you know what, that has happened to me, but it wasn't my fault. And I do struggle still with being intimate with people. A lot of times I have a hard time with it because there could be something that just reminds me of what's happened. And I'm like, nope, I don't want it. Stop. And I have my youngest son is 6 and I have not been intimate with anybody in 6 years. And I'm okay with that. Like, to me, that's not a necessity to me. I don't know. Like, I kind of just protect myself. Sometimes I'm like, I want to, to be with somebody, but at the same time, I'm scared to death because what's going to happen?
Did you equate sex with love at the time? Just somebody that give you attention?
Yes.
At the time,
Yeah, and I thought, well, if they're sleeping with me, they love me. Or my other thing is, and I know this now, like when I have met people and they like love bomb you. Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm like, oh, they really do love me. No, they don't love you. Like, this is not normal type of stuff. But because that's what I was searching for, because I didn't have it, like, to me, it seemed normal to me. Now I know that's a huge red flag. And if I hear it, I stay the heck away from it. I'm like, nope, I don't want it, but it's taken me a long time to see the red flags. A lot of the times I'd get myself in a situation and then I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I in?
Yeah,
How do I get out of it? And by the
right.
time you're in the thick of it, and it's the hardest thing to get out of. The other thing I've struggled with is setting boundaries. I have just over the last year been able to set boundaries. I set a boundary with my mom and I'm like, I love my mom and I will always love my mom, but I keep her at a far distance from me. I hadn't seen her for over about a year until the other day. And it was just a lot for me because it's like, when I left her house, she was very violent towards me. And I want answers. Like, I want to know why. And I try to understand, like, I sat down with her because she was drinking pretty heavily. And I said, can you tell me why you drink? I want to understand. I know why I chose to drink and I want to be able to support you. And when she looked at me and told me, she's like, I fucking hate you. That's why I drink. Wow. And it was like, what have I ever done to you to hate me so much?
Right.
And it hurts, like, you know what I mean? Because she's my only living parent. But I also know at the same time, she's hurting and she's projecting out. And I know that. But still, hearing it from your parent, you're like, what? um, I just have been able to be like, no, if this doesn't feel right, I'm not doing it. Um, and that has
Boundaries are a
been,
big part of everybody's recovery, I think. I think boundaries are, if we any of us had solid boundaries, we wouldn't have been an addict. We would have been able to stop addiction before, you know, a lot of times anyway,
yeah.
before it happens, or stop the people, the hurt, the abuse, whatever the case may be, before it happens, if we had solid boundaries. So how solid are your boundaries now, and how do you work on those daily?
My boundaries are actually pretty solid. There have been friends that I thought were my friends, where I literally have told him, nope, I'm not doing this no more. You're not gonna come. I had a friend that he would become homeless all the time in the wintertime. And
Mm.
I would feel bad, and I'd open up my home because I was like, no, 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 I don't want you out. I live in Maine, so it gets pretty chilly up here. And I was like, no, you can come stay with me. But then he would come in my home and try to run my home. And then I felt like it wasn't my home no more. And I have recently just, I've told him, I said, I can't do this. I said, I don't think this is even a healthy friendship. And I said, this is where if like, we can't be friends, we can't do this. And this is for me. I need to continue to grow, and I need to continue to heal. And having you a part of my life is not healthy. And I got called like every name in the book, but I'm okay with that. Like that's how you feel. That's okay. I have to do what's best for me and what's best for my children. And if that's cutting people out of my life, well, then so be it. That's kind of where I'm at this point. Like, I'm not here to appease people. I'm trying to do what I need to do to be healthy for myself and to be healthy for my children.
How big was telling your story the very first time? How much relief did you get from that? How much did it help you?
It helped me a lot, but I get nightmares from it when I talk about it because it's like reliving it.
How
Um,
do you deal with the nightmares, the night terrors, the nightmares?
um, a lot of times I don't sleep if I have them. I work at nighttime. I work as a crisis clinician from home. So a lot of times I kind of bury myself between schoolwork and work so that I don't have to think about it.
So when do you ever have to work through them? Later after you've had them, do they affect your day?
Sometimes I do. And when they do, I just reach out to my therapist a lot of times.
So what's one of the biggest things in recovery that you found?
My biggest thing in recovery is to being honest with people. I can't even begin to tell you how many bridges I've burned down, um, the lies, and then there are lies upon lies, and to me they were normal. Um, it's taken me a long time to build that trust back, but I also find that if I'm not honest with people, there, and I know that sometimes me being honest may be hurtful, and I'm not trying to hurt nobody, but at the same time, I need to be true, not only to myself, but I need to be true to other people. And that has been my biggest thing, is the whole honesty thing.
One last thing. Well, a couple more. But how rewarding? How did you get to work on the relationship with your kids?
So my oldest son, we don't have a relationship, which has been really difficult because of everything that he has seen. He has seen me actively using, and his dad and his grandmother, where he lives, still unfortunately put things into his head saying that I'm still an addict and I'm still doing all these things, which are not true. Um, I have tried for years to have a relationship with him, and he's just not ready. I've always told him, when you're ready, I'm always going to be here. I'm really sorry, and I don't know what else to say to fix this. Um, and my hope is that one day he'll realize that I'm not half as bad as what he thinks I am, and that we could get past this. My two youngest children, we have a really good relationship. My youngest has never ever seen me and use anything, and then my daughter was really young. Um, but we have a good relationship.
How early on, I know you did without your kids. Why did you do that? Just so they wouldn't see you struggle with addiction, so they wouldn't ask questions, or
Um, I didn't want them to see what I was doing. I was afraid.
I commend you
And
for that.
what if I would have OD'd and they walked in? Like I didn't want them to ever see that, and I didn't know where I was heading. I just knew I was heading down a dark path, and I didn't want them to ever see that.
That's smart. I mean, uh, unfortunately, I hate to say that, but that's probably one of the best things you could have done. And how good is your relationship now with your kids?
My so like I don't have a good relationship with my oldest, but
Your
with
oldest, yeah,
my two youngest, I have a really good relationship with.
that's good.
Yeah.
Last question I'll ask you is, if anybody's listening out there and you want them to take away one thing, what would that be?
Um, that you can get through this, even though it's hard. Um, always be true to yourself and give yourself grace and patience. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen overnight. But if you're patient with yourself, take baby steps. There's times that I've done minute by minute, second by second, just to get through the day, and that's okay. And that's something that I even tell my clients, that struggle not just with mental health but with addiction, that you got to give yourself, the grace and be patient with yourself.
And I know in AA and NA you have to find your higher power. How impactful was that?
So for me, I my higher power is I feel grounded when I'm outside, and I'm a part of a church called the Rock Church up here, and they the pastor is a former addict, and pretty much everybody that goes here are in recovery. So it's like I found it's a community, and it's comfortable because we understand one another. But for me, like I feel grounded. Like if I get really anxious or whatnot, I just go outside, and for some reason, I feel at peace. I I'd rather be outside sometimes than being in a church. Um, it just brings me, peace. The ocean is my biggest thing. I grew up on the ocean, so I feel closer to my dad when I'm close to water, which has been a little difficult now that I live in northern Maine. But when I lived down in southern Maine, I lived like 10 minutes from the ocean, and I was at peace. But I know like any place out here, like I could just go out there and I could scream, I could, whatever it may be. It brings me comfort being outside.
And what's one thing that you want to still accomplish while you're in recovery?
One of the biggest things is that of course, I always want to stay sober, but I want to be able to get my degree to help others. I find my biggest thing is that I remember when I first got sober, I had a therapist who had no idea about addiction. All she knew was what she read in a book. But
Yeah, those are no good.
how can you help me when you'd
Mhm.
only read it in a book? You don't know what I'm going through. Later on, I had a therapist who had, experienced addiction, and I was like, it helps so much. And so my whole thing is that since I, only have, the addiction, but I also have the trauma, I want to be able to help others to get through, because I understand it. And if I could have my way, I would just take everybody's pain away and nobody would feel anything. Um, my goal is just to be able to be supportive to other people that are struggling.
Well, I appreciate the time that you took out of your day to come on the show. I agree with you. Just you sharing your story with somebody is going to bring them a little bit of hope. And hope for me is an acronym for hold on, the pain ends. And I honestly believe that everybody that shares their story is going to be somebody else's survival guide on how they get sober, how they manage, how they cope with it, how they get out of it. So I really appreciate you and commend you for staying sober for the last 11 years. That's 11 years in a row.
Yeah.
That's
thank you.
awesome. All the work that you put in and continue to do is amazing. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Big shout out to Pete versus Anxiety. Thank you, Pete. We love you. And that's Rock and Recovery. Go rock your recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
All right.